And this is David. So, David, what brings you here tonight? No, I'm just kidding. You have a lot going on, actually. So, where do you want to
Yeah.
actually start?
Um, like I think we can probably just wing it. So once Andy joins, then I want to jump into the piece that I left off with last Friday's live and delve into that more. So because
Okay.
there's a lot to dive into with that piece and to break down. So
Yeah, it would be a real bummer if we started talking about that and we got towards the tail end of that because you did bring that up last week and then he joins us and then he's, sorry, Andy, you'll have to watch the replay.
yeah, right. But
So, I know where we can start then. Why don't you kind of just give us kind of the like the basic history of who you are, because you are also going to be talking about something else that I think that you're either releasing or just released as well, and that's kind of interesting as well. So I don't know
yeah.
if you want to go through your history.
Um, well, I've been writing poetry since I was, let's see, 21. So I'm now 32. And I've just basically just slowly progressed into a writer that I am. And I'm very comfortable with the writing and the writer that I am today because it was less poetry. I shouldn't say less poetry then, but it was just basic, simple poetry. I believe that just lacked a lot of what's the best word I can describe it? I guess comprehension would be the better word and the best word to use it because I was trying to find my my outlet for writing, and it wasn't until about maybe 2019 2020 is when I actually developed into my writing ability that I have now, which is storytelling. Like I say, I mean, it's not that my poetry back then wasn't great. It's just it lacked hearing the poetry that I write now. It definitely lacked the the telling aspect of it. So
I
um,
don't want to use the word depth, but you're saying just adding that extra additional layer to it, perhaps?
yeah, as far as like it's hard to explain because I guess I used to, and I still do, but I used to search the dictionary a lot for words, and I would actually use those words into like to write poems with, and I still do that. I mean, if I don't know a word, if I'm reading a book and I don't know it, I'll look it up and I'll use it in a later piece. But as far as I don't know, I was going through, I guess, through a weird phase of writing when I was in my early 20s. Like I was beginning to write it, and I was beginning to write and take my writing seriously on a daily basis. But I was writing shit. I mean, it really was shit. I mean, it didn't make any sense. I mean, it did make sense, but it also didn't make sense. Then,
Is it, I mean, is it because you were just fresh off, into the whole thing? Because, wisdom comes from, grinding it out and doing it,
I guess
and all that stuff.
it was some kind of restriction that was holding me back because for the fact that when 2019 2020 came around, I don't have any limit on my rating as far as there's no restrictions whatsoever in my rating. As far as I say what I say and I mean what I say. So there's no sugarcoating anything anymore. And I think that's what one of my problems um, was relating my thoughts into words and trying to make it simple with heavy words.
Kind of like how people would describe it as overworked, maybe, because you were trying so hard to finesse it that it just was over finessed.
Pretty, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm doing good here. I'm doing
Yeah.
good here. All
So
right, good.
I just saw Andy in the live. So
All
hi,
right.
Andy.
All right, we'll get him in. I was just sending out the blast too to everybody right now. So trying to do like 8 things at once. But yay, we got Andy here because we definitely want to have Andy here and everybody else who is joining us. Andy, yep, he's been trying to get in for probably 20 minutes now. Thanks for helping me out there.
You're
But
welcome.
Andy, we waited for you before we discuss any piece of poetic
Oh.
content because we wanted to wait for you, dude. For our
Yeah,
season
I'm
5
so
finale.
sorry. Of course, right where I'm about to go live, that's when everything wants to go wrong.
Well,
My phone wants to act up. My headphone, everything was just going wrong for no reason.
well, I was having login issues earlier. I was unable to log in, and for some odd reason, I thought my account was hacked because I know it's been happening quite a bit with
Yeah, that's been. I noticed that too. There was a poet that apparently got her account suspended. Bleeding ink or something like that. It was crazy. Everyone was talking about it recently.
So I was afraid of that. So I was, and I think it was around like 5:30, 6 o'clock when I was able to log in. So I thank God it wasn't hacked because I wouldn't.
Thank God. Thank God for that.
That's not where I go. I'm like, I'm not important enough for people who are going to want to hack into my account. So,
But
Word.
yeah, as far as my going back to my whole writing ability, it just it's really taken it. I wouldn't say, I guess, drastic change, but in a very dynamic way. And I think this goes back to like the poets that I told you on my first live with you guys, like Jack Kerouac and Charles Bukowski. I began to listen to those poets more and more, and I've adapted my writing like theirs, but I made it into my own. So like I use inspiration from beat poetry, beatnik poetry to rapping, and I just take all genres. But my biggest inspiration that I've taken hold of with my writing ability is listening to folk music and Americana music. So,
That's
but as far as like I said, I'm just very proud of the writer I've become today, and it really does show in this piece that I'm going to be reading a little later on in this episode. But to actually go back, I guess we'll go back in a little bit. But since you're with us, Andy, I want to dive into this piece that I read on last week's live because it has a lot of detailing and just metaphors and just double entendres, everything in the book. So I'm going to reread it again as soon as I find it.
yeah.
But
Well, while you're looking for that, let me know when you found it. I'm actually really appreciative that you've actually chosen to start off with this because, Andy, I know we spoke about this piece specifically after the live, but I know that, David, you mentioned that this is a piece that you're particularly proud of because a whole bunch of things that we're going to get into, but I'm really looking forward to talking about your actual process of constructing this piece, and it's very unique in itself, but we'll talk about after you perform it for everybody.
See, and that's another thing that I've been like really honing in on is the structure of writing pieces of that magnitude, because I don't know where I know where I was, but I don't know where I was physically. Like mentally, I knew I was gone, but physically, when I came back, it was I literally sat down and just was like, holy shit, how did I even write that, and why did I write that? So, but yeah, the structure is definitely it's still new to me. Don't get me wrong. It's only been like 4 years since I've actually kind of went with the structure of writing poetry, but with time and age, wine tastes better. So
Excellent. All right, so go for it.
well, I'm still trying to find it, so give me a moment.
All right, sorry, Andy disappeared, so I thought that meant like we were good to go.
no. Yeah, I thought you were gonna read it now, so I was like, oh, okay, and then.
All right. Well, so while you're still looking for it, I will say this: that again, we have two different characters that are going to be kind of represented in this piece, and it's really a challenge to those who are listening now or during the replay to kind of figure out like where does one kind of bleed into the other / where does it kind of separate. Because again, it's like a really beautiful combination.
Yeah, and I'll explain more of it once I get that once I read the piece. Just because it's it's just amazing actually. Like I honestly and I told let, let, I told you that I had to take a break.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just it hit me. I had to sit there. All right, so I found it.
All right,
So,
good.
it took about 5 minutes,
That's all
maybe half of that
right.
five, but no. All right.
It's
So
worth it. It was worth it. The
yeah.
hype was worth it, everybody. Andy, it's worth it because. Okay, Andy.
All
I
right.
was trying to get the great thing, but never mind.
It's okay because I'm gonna actually turn the camera off myself. So all right. So my letter to, my letter to Stella. Oliver's words ripped the rise from the sun last sunset, telling me he enlisted in the army at dawn while I slept. He was going off to war on the 8th of April, 1861. But just as the sun settled from dawn to dusk, he promised me a church would rise from the happiness of a wedding after the war was over. Ollie the groom, Stella the bride. Dated 1st of April, 1861. This morning, April 3rd, Ollie is out in the field, an axe in hand, extracting all roots of what will be our future, existing as our past in this present time. Our home in the clearing, stacked and stocked away until he comes back home. My lovely Ollie, do I love so. April 4th, Ollie stacks another day on the pile, lying in wait. I wait for him to come in from the killing field of a labor he has sprung in this April spring weather. We're to have a picnic by the river this afternoon, his favorite I've cooked for him. Ollie's sleeping next to me, dreaming of our future, as I am imagining him not going off to war. Tonight I can't sleep. I'm awake, digging the mine, resisting to put down the gold of today's picnic. Under the blue sky. We had yellow fever, reminiscing. His voice was food to my thoughts. Starving they were not. My love for him full as our bellies. Both April 5th and April 6th. 2 days I resent for April Fools, Ollie and I were. Our rage brought April showers that wilted our flowering hearts. We fought like husband and wife before our wedding ever begun. One by one, I gave him reasons not to go off to war. Please hear me, Ollie. One by one, he gave me reasons why he must go to war. Please hear me, Stella. We went to bed that and we went to bed and gardened both nights. Rain fell from the sky, just as I wiped it from my eyes. His hand fell into my palm. April 7th. In the carriage, Ollie and I went into town. The train set to leave at noon. I looked at Ollie with love, although I looked around the prairie, lost in gloom. Goosebumps shook me awake. The train whistled. We kissed farewell. Here I write in this diary of mine, trying not to die alone, Ollie dying to come back home. Dated 8th of April, 1861. The man and his pony gallop behind Stella. Her curious expression stares back at the man on the horse. It's the 1st of April, 1862. 1 year down and 3 more years to go until Ollie comes back home. The man delivers Stella a letter, her hands stained with red mulch. She stands on her feet. Behind her is a willow tree shading a garden she has started to kill off the loneliness until she feels holy at the altar on her wedding day. The day Ollie is home, both the bride and groom mend their love again. Taking the letter in her hand, her face is blank as the blank pages unwritten in her diary. The sun rises her frown. First time the sun sets down its dusk to rise at dawn. Addressed, my letter to Stella. Her fingers open the letter, the paper, the cover for her diary. Under her breasted chest, it's coated in smudged soil, discolored. Her hand cradles the letter on her lap, like a baby in arms. She reads the words of Oliver. Dear Stella, my wife soon to be, my dearest darling, your love draws near. Each day my love is forced away from this heart. I took the soldier's uniform made in 1861. Its rifle stocked and barreled, strapped to my shoulder. Our future was sap and snap, brick by brick, barked out of a tree. When this war is over, please protect that woodpile I stacked after I chopped. Please protect the woodpile I stacked after I chopped down many days clearing our home. Today is the first scrimmage. My brothers and I are camped on this mountainside. What a view from these Kentucky hills. The fog this morning reminds me of the wedding dress you will be wearing once I make it back home. We are carrying on a laugh here and there right now so the pain of the weight on our shoulders doesn't crush our spirits. Hold on, my dear Stella. A bullet just whizzed through the woods. It caught an innocent northern flicker on the branch of the tree rooted on this ranch we made into a fort. Another bullet splinters the warped fence I was resting against just before I got up when I saw the flinch from the northern flicker. Its feather soaking in blood, soaking into this paper like a hot wax seal. I press this ink from the quill on. My letter to you, dear Stella. This letter is damp and stained with what soil I crawl in, crawling to find warmth and shelter where the bullets can't find me. As I yell at your love to keep up and stay close, my darling Mary, I'm terrified to lose you. These letters I song into words are so pure, they calm my fingers so perfectly. I found rescue in these woods of Kentucky. I look at my brothers in arms length, dying on the ground, leaving blood to rain on the soil. Their limbs barely hanging on by his ligament thread. I only hope they have a Mary as their guardian angel. Sitting in these woods, I realize war is a cancer and politics is a tumor. Where would we be if I wasn't lost in these hallowing woods of Kentucky? My train of thought interrupted. A bullet has erupted, thudded into something I do not know, nor can I see or hear it, though I felt it. A mourning dove calls out. Blood spills onto my lap. I hunch over in terror. My wonderful Stella, I must go. All my brothers have gone now. I am the last person I see in this forest. You were the last thought on my mind.
Wow.
Andy, can you see
Oh my
why
God.
David didn't take a couple of days to kind of decompress from that? Andy, can you talk right now, or do you need a second?
My heart's like this. Like, this is, oh my God. Again, I really thought, you know what? It took me back to, there was a Nicolas Cage movie that was, it was like a army movie that it was based on. And it's funny, it was like, oh my God. I don't remember the name of this movie, but it was this guy, and he was in the army. He didn't want to he wanted to be a paramedic, but he didn't want to hold a gun. That's pretty much what it come down to. And he went through a lot of problems, and I think it was during World War II or World War I. I don't remember. And they arrested. It was like this whole thing, pretty much, that happened. And pretty much he had to go to court, as far as, the Army court, and they said, okay, fine, you can be in the army, but you can't touch a gun or whatever. But anyway, just the scenery takes back from back in the day. That's what the setting is. And that's what it reminded me of. But it's like I saw myself like in this park by my house, and I'm reading this diary from somebody. And I'm reading, and it's like I'm envisioning everything that guy is going through. Everything. Like the wars, the forest, everything. And it's just like the imagery is so like spot on, man. Like I don't even know how to explain it. I really felt like I was watching like a really old school, like those days, like back, what's that movie, Gone with the Wind, like those times, like the army movies at that time was so different than the army movies like in the 80s. It was a big difference.
Yeah.
But that's what,
Gone with the Wind would be appropriate because that seems to fit the historical context of that 1861 time period.
Yeah.
at the right location, because this is, it seems like Kentucky, not Georgia, but
that's,
still, that's the right.
see, that's another thing that I when I thought, and when I was taking time this past week of, just, decompressing from reading the piece on Friday, I was wondering why I involved a particular dove, but then when I realized where it's from, you see where they actually live at, which is they live in Tennessee. So when I when I go back, and like it's going to be weird because I'm going to start from the bottom, and then I guess I'll work my way up, or maybe in between. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. There's so much to take in, but so the very last piece, or the very last section of the piece, where he goes, let's see, where he goes, where am I at? A mourning dove calls out. So a mourning dove is actually a bird that's native to Tennessee. So when you think about it, a mourning dove calls out, meaning that it called out, but it's showing through the eyes of the bird. You see Oliver or Ollie dying.
Well, I gotta say this though. According to my avianary friends, those mourning doves are found in every U.S. state except for, of course, Hawaii and Alaska. But they tend to breed along the southeast.
Oh well, yeah. Well, thanks for fact checking. So, but when I looked it up originally, that's where it said that that's one of the states that it said it was in. So that's where I guess. If the question ever arises, then they live in Tennessee. But there's so much to go on this piece. Like when I finished the piece, I didn't know exactly how I wanted to phrase it. Like I didn't know if I should phrase it in a present tense or a past tense. But I phrased it in the past tense for the fact that this could be him. Like she's reading his letter, of course, but this could be actually him as a ghost telling, talking to her. So another thing that really got to me when I wrote it was going back to Stella's piece. I said, let's see where is it at? Where is it in here? So yeah, I said. The sun rises her frown. The first time the sun sets down as dust to rise at dawn. Meaning, like her face, she's been like in her sorrow for a year, and then when she finally gets this letter that it's stated from Ollie, that her frown it's risen like a smile, and the smile is like a dawn. Another thing is, let's see, there is okay, for instance, right here. So, like and when I said both April 5th and April 6th, 2 days I resent for April Fools, Ollie and I were, our rage brought April showers that wilted our flowering hearts. Basically, one day was her arguing with him, and then the next day was him arguing with her. Both days explaining to each other of why he should not go and why he should go. So, and that goes to, and then also it's just April showers. April Fools, April showers, and then basically the diary's all basically April, which April 8th is the first day that the Civil War started. So it was really amazing. I didn't know when I wrote her perspective. I didn't know exactly where I was going to go with it until the whole diary form came about, and then I went from there. But going back to his piece, there's a lot to tell on this piece, and it's it's when he's on the I think near the on the mountain, where he's on camp. He's camped on the mountainside, and he says, "We are carrying on a life here and there, so that the pain of the weight on our shoulders doesn't crush our spirits." It's a double entendre. So the double entendre is basically explaining the pain of the war, of what they're going through, but also the pain of holding the rifle always, day or night, wait, trying not to fall asleep. So the way, so it can go both ways on the pain of the weight. Go both ways. So
Yeah, exactly. Because Andy, I know you had a little bit of difficulty making your way onto the show at the start of it, but our friend here, our guest here, says what's categorized as his voice is that he says what he says and he means what he says, but everything he says has multiple meanings, as we're finding out as he's unfolding through. Again, like the mourning dove, we're talking about, the loss of a love here, mourning and mourning. Also, this is a little bit back. This is maybe not the double entendre, but again, going back to the April showers and the combination of them fighting over, but also going back into the tears, mimicking the rain showers as well. So again, he says what he says, but he says multiple things at the same time, Andy. So what do you have to say about that?
No, I agree. I definitely agree. Like I said, I love the perspectives he puts on in this piece, for sure. I always tell myself, I wish I can write like that. I no matter how hard I try to write like that, I can't. Like, I try to write it from some, like, a different perspective, and I try to do that. It's hard. It might look like it's easy, but it's not easy. And you do it in such a way that's so profound and so, like, into perfection. It's like, wow, bro. Like, I feel like even though this is a piece, but I could see you turning this into a book, like an actual, but not like a novel book, but like you could write it in a form of a diary. Let's say, like, that's one page of his that's one part of his diary, and then it could be another page of that. Like, I could see a series with this. I really see you doing this with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting it out there,
and
but this could be a series
for sure. Also, can you talk about how you wrote that? Because it's very interesting, the fact that the way you wrote that specifically.
So yeah, I wrote Oliver's piece a Saturday, probably maybe I'm assuming probably 5 hours. It could have been.
Oh wow!
But I'm aiming about 5 hours, because I started at about maybe 9:30 in the morning. And I was done with it about maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then Sunday, and here's the thing about me writing this piece is that I was only going on Oliver's perspective, because initially when I wrote it, I only had maybe a paragraph that I was just going to work with for his piece, but it ended up being a longer piece than what it stemmed from. But going into Sunday, I kind of had the idea of writing from his wife's perspective, or his fiance's perspective in this matter. And I was about maybe 5 hours with her, maybe a little bit more, just because as a man coming at writing from a woman's perspective, I don't know how the fuck I did it. I really don't. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying that it's no disrespect or anything like that toward a woman or anything like that. But it's, as a man, how do you write something?
Right. How do you write something so intellectually complex and delicate?
Yeah.
And so advanced. I agree. It's
like you put yourself in the woman's perspective to write that part of the.
It's so advanced for you guys.
Yeah. Something AI can't even do.
But but it's so much I put into this piece that, and it didn't actually take me a lot of editing to do. I mean, here and there I did a couple of rewrites with lines, but for the most part, it was one of those pieces that came about and I winged it, for a better phrase. But there's so much in this piece. Like when I say, "Hold on, my dear Stella," a bullet just whizzed through the woods. It caught an innocent northern flicker on the branch of the tree rooted on this ranch we made into a fort. A northern flicker is a Kentucky bird. So, and again, just like the Morning Dove, I made sure I referenced birds that came from both states or that resonate in both states. I don't think Northern Flicker is, maybe it is in Tennessee, but it's more, I learned from Kentucky. But just the imagery of that alone, just as he said, just before I got up, when I saw the flinch from the Northern Flicker, just the wordplay, the word scheme there is amazing to me. I mean, and I wrote it. I look back at it, and I'm just like, how?
Well, I think, like,
Yeah.
again, and some kind of, and when we're talking pre-interviewing, you know, you kind of described yourself as almost going through like similar to an acting style of writing in this regards, as far as, you know, Andy, I'm sure you've heard of the style of methodology where you become that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you felt like you were writing as that character. That's why you're so dumbfounded as to, holy shit, this is where this came from, because it came from not you, but Stella.
Yeah.
Right.
And it shows.
And
there's so many directions you can take that. I think that's what I love about that piece, the fact that so many directions he took this, putting himself in the woman's perspective, and yet it's like it still came out like brilliant. Rainer says beautiful mindset is what Rainer said.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just real quick for those who's just joining us. We're interviewing David DW. Oh, I can't even talk. I'm so sorry. DWT Poetry. He's talking about his writing process. He just read a piece to us. And it's just like we're having this great conversation, and thank you for joining us again. Yeah, so I just wanted to update everybody. Anything you want to add on to that before we continue?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the season 5 finale, and we're kicking it off. This is part 2 because we had part 1 season finale kick off 10 p.m. UK time with our darling Just Star. Incredible interview. Definitely check that out if you missed that earlier. She is just incredible, an artist, true artist. And we have David joining us for our part 2, end of the season 5. There will be fireworks going off sometime during this, because my neighbor will be lighting fireworks off at some point tonight. So, Andy, for us,
Oh my
season
God.
5 finale, I brought fireworks to the table for y'all.
Yeah, this is the end of season 5 on to season 6, and of course later on tonight we have merged the open mics. So now 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's myself and Rainer, pretty much Unraveled Influence and Origin of Thought are tag teaming moving forward every Friday 10 p.m. Rainer's the host under
Origin of Thought.
Origin of Thought, and I am the second host under Unraveled Influence. So we just built our first bridge in the poetry community. So I'm excited for this. And this is the
and
beginning.
we're driving through. And it works. And we're
Yes,
merging.
we're driving the van.
The
Yes,
van.
and I just want to say yes, this is a quick shout out to Valerie. Thank you for allowing us to do that. So anyway, back to David. You go ahead.
What I was saying, to throw it back to you, David, is that we were talking about, if you're just joining us, he just went through this piece that he did drop live on our show last week during the open mic, Letters to Stella, which is just an incredible period piece that could be apparently a feature film. We're all just dying to hear more about.
And the first person I read this to was my grandfather. And after I read it, he sat there and he was in silence probably for about maybe 10 seconds, and then he started bawling. Just not for it was an emotional connection, but it was more so the story. Just, it grips you like you're on the ride through that from beginning to end, and it's just he and I were talking, and I even agree with what he said, is that I did the opposite of writing. Like, you know how like normally you write something and then it's the prequel and then it's the sequel. But I did the opposite. I made the sequel first and then the prequel. And so and that goes into like where the break of the two pieces are. So when I say addressed my letter to Stella, her fingers opened the letter, the paper, the cover for her diary under her breasted chest. It's coated in smudged soil, discolored. Her hand cradles the letter on her lap like a baby in arms. She reads the words of Oliver. That's the end of her piece. And I wrote her piece Sunday. And to actually write that with how I did it is just amazing. It just basically there's no break when you're reading the piece. There's no break. You don't know where the break until now, until just now. But after I say that she reads the words of Oliver, that's it. That's her piece, and then it jumps into his piece, letter. So, but there's a reason why I wanted to read her piece or I shouldn't say her piece, but their piece is because it's going to go along with the piece that I'm reading tonight as well, that I'm debuting, and it's an anniversary piece as of yesterday. Well, I guess as of today, but as of yesterday. So, and it's a first time read for me, and the first time I've ever shared an ounce of it. So, it's a heavy one. So, I would suggest to bring the tissues.
Oh, you heard it here on Unraveled Influence.
It's an exclusive and it's an emotional one, but Dave, you always try to bring out the tissues with us. You definitely drew the emotional appeal. So, it sounds like we're gonna go with the piece first, and then we'll dive into the whole backstories and into it all.
Yeah.
All right.
We can do that. So, let's see. Well, I don't know if I want to read it just yet because I want to actually have.
Get back.
Yeah, not yet. That was
not yet. Not yet. Too soon.
No, yeah, too soon. But
you got to get into the backstory first, right?
So, as as you guys know, in the piece that I wrote for my mom, I talked about me having seizures and stuff like that, and having CP. Mm-hmm. Well, the little backstory is the neurologist, which I incorporated in the piece. I didn't give his name because I don't want a copyright strike or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But the neurologist that diagnosed me with CP was Dr. Benjamin Carson.
Andy, do you know who the fuck that is?
No.
Really?
That was the guy who was touched by God and ran for president.
Wait.
For a Republican. Come on, you gotta know who.
Wait. Okay,
Carson is.
You don't.
No, I don't know. I don't know politics like that. I really don't.
Well, he was only a politician for a little while.
Oh my gosh, he was. Did you ever watch Saturday Night Live? I mean, they parodied him so much.
No. So I've seen little things here and there Saturday Night Live. Oh, that guy. Okay, I didn't know that was his name. I'm sorry. I'm not good with names when it comes to politics. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sue me, Angela. I'm sorry. Sue me. Like.
He was.
I'm a high school teacher. But holy shit.
Yeah, he was also the one that actually did the first Siamese twins separation.
Wow.
Oh wow!
The conjoined twin separation.
Here's a fun fact. Because I was little, so I don't remember the seeing a meeting person because I was maybe 2 or 3 times because down here no one really knew what I had, so they didn't know if I was actually. I hate to use the word. I hate to use that word, but they weren't too sure if I was actually severely mentally challenged. So they sent me up to Baltimore, and on the day of my appointment, he had some interns there that he was teaching, and he asked my mom's permission to actually have me as a test baby for him to actually show what parts of the brain is affected with CP and all. And that goes into what actually I do have is, so an MRI test actually will show you where the functions of the brain, and it lights up, it lights up the active spots. So in my MRI test, I only have functioning on, let's see, yeah, on my right side of my brain, which works the left. So there's little to nothing that actually is functioning on my left side.
Wow.
So
And this is like at 2 to 3 years of age, right? That's where
yeah,
we're getting the MRA from, because
roughly that
obviously,
3 to 4 year.
okay.
And then with that, when with the whole my brain was basically rewiring itself when I was having the seizures. Even though seizures are technically, your brain's frying on a skillet, basically, but it was rewiring itself. But I've been seizure free since I was 4 years old, so I'm 32. So it's what, almost, is that 29 years? I think roughly 30 years. So, but I yeah, and my seizures that I used to have were the severe ones where I would stop breathing. And they actually told my mom
Wow.
my last seizure that I had that I wasn't gonna make it out alive. I was basically
Wow.
blue as the blue sky, maybe even darker. I was, from what
Wow.
my mom said, that I was basically purple. But um, so that is a little backstory of why I'm reading this piece tonight, because it incorporates a, a little about my life. Um, so when I was born, I was born basically without knowing my biological father. He was never around. He wanted nothing to do with me. He was a drug addict and alcoholic, which glad that I never that I was never associated with him. But as a child, trying to know who your father is through stories and asking your father about it's always it has and always will be a pain in the heart. But there's a way to adapt that through an outlet. And for me, I was gifted writing, so I created a pseudo uh, in with with the rage and the bewilderment and feelings. It's strange from him. So I yeah through I went through I wouldn't say a lot, but I went through a lot of a bunch of times where I kind of wondered where he was at, and I even reached out to him through Facebook when I was about maybe what was I, about 24, 25, and I told him and he blocked me from Facebook. Like, he blocked me entirely.
Wow.
He was that type of guy, but still in the end, he was my father. I'm kind of giving away what this piece is about, but um, I was, let's see, how can I say this? So I was in one day last year at the 29th of June of 2022, and I get the news from my mom that my father had unfortunately passed from his alcoholism, his drug addiction, and just bad health. So
Wow.
I wrote this piece, and it's kind of strange because I wrote this piece back in, maybe, I think I say it in here, about 2019, 2019, 2020. I wrote this piece, and I don't know, and my phone at the time stopped working, so I lost the piece. So what I ended up doing was I ended up just about a month or two ago, I went back kind of by memory. I went back and remember to initially. I rewrote it initially, and yeah. So it's gonna be my letter to Stella, where it's a period piece, but it's a period piece of myself, of when I was 28 years old, going 29 years old, and then it goes comes from that to 30, 31, 32. So, well, I think I skipped a couple years because it's the way I phrased it. But it's called, this piece is called The Raw Grave. So like my with the other piece, I'm gonna actually, yep, I'm gonna turn the camera off. So The Raw Grave. 20, 28 phone calls made, 28 missed calls. This year I'm turning 29. 28 days have passed, yet I leave hope in one more. That's all I can spare. I'll stay up to receive your call. Dad, Dad, is that you? I thought I heard your voice for the first time. I'll call back in 2 years. Cannot be reached at this time, and the voicemail has not been set up. Click. I leave the phone off the hook. It's disturbing how I imagine this in this. I'm just not naive for your love. Please. Sometimes I start to believe in my own lies. Dad, I miss you. I started to think I could share a drink with I started to think that I could share a drink, pretend we are celebrating my 29th birthday together. But I'm afraid that I'll see you in the bar. I don't want our initial introduction to be so intimate that we close the bar down. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm not like you. So I will bottle up my emotions, spill another memory without you. Down the drain, 28 years of rain down on my face. Every storm bearing your name. Ring, ring, ring. Hi, you reached the voicemail, Robert, and the voicemail is full. That's okay. I'm happy enough to know that I'm happy enough to know you set up your voicemail. But Dad, before I let you go, I want to tell you a secret. Back when I was 20, I found a picture of you, and damn, you resemble me when you were 20. I couldn't help but to cry. Your face painted a sketch my imagination could not. Anywho, I instinctively sat on the porch, wanting to see if you would pull up into a pick men. Dad, it's June 19th. Happy Father's Day. I had to whisper so Mom doesn't get upset. Who am I kidding? I'm just as drunk as you are. The 12 gauge has a hole for me. 2 shells of a man. 1 shot for me. To go off the rails. I don't want him to feel like he failed as a father, a man who lost both a father and a son in his lifetime. Ring, ring. Before I could pick up the phone, I buried the raw initials in a poem. Year to year, many an hour from the 365-day, learning how to banish the bleeding of the endless yearn. The warm urn to title himself a father never occurred. Today, it doesn't bother him where his son is, who his son is. The son of a bitch doesn't know he is wanted dead more than he's wanted alive. The son of a bitch lies in a grave, the dirt shoveled by I. A grave marked with the print of these boots I've used to stomp the dirt down a marker reads, the father without belief, the man with no life in his eye, the man with no soul, the worthless son of a bitch buried by the man he gave face, buried by the man who he could not face in person, even after life stares death in the face. Ring, ring, ring. My phone buzzing. The vibrations tremble my hand. Hello. 29th of June, 2022 is the day the search was called off for the missing person. The father of the urn, today and forever, the remains of my father now. Today and forever, the remains of my father, never known, has filled an urn. Today and here on, I stare out into the imaginary, as if I'm staring down into an abyss, unknown of what lies below the forevermore quiet surface. The thought of his name dissolves inside the fume, burning a heated, enraged haze. The fire burns a hole in the ground. It's a grave boring the truth. He sleeps in the bed that I made for him years ago. A grave of my own making. The thought of this shovel was for my own haven. Silence is loud listening to the fire crackle. The flame squeezes its layer around my heart, aches in the hands of God, breaking lying in cradle of our mother nature, burns pulsating in the rogue gentleman's grip, for his chloroform handkerchief, bewilderment drunken I am. I honorably discharge a bottle for the fallen, but since he jumped AWOL to count bottles on the wall, dishonorably discharge himself from my life and his country, I withdraw the urge to reach out a bottle, pour the contents out through the gates of hell, fully aware he died of thirst. Maturity has healed the raw laceration. The war has ended. Even as blood he transfused flows through the embodiment of a soldier until the day that I die. With the following words layered in a prayer, I say this. Dear unheavenly Father, find peace as you climb the 12 steps beyond the staircase to heaven. Allow me the strength to now piece myself together with a peace of mind. I will now close the guest book, place the flowery quill on top of your tombstone. Aged confidence on my lips. I may now say hello and goodbye with nothing in between. Vacant in the wilderness, the sun I see in the moon, redemption on the rise of both. Ring, ring, ring. My 30-second phone call is to heaven. It's been a year, and I pray that I'm just not talking to God indirectly, because I'm talking to you directly. I pray that you are listening to me, looking down on me, and not looking up to me from a different place. In hell you were here on earth. I'm just a human here on earth who traveled through hell to find you. In heaven or hell, dead men tell no tales. Dad, I hope that when I don't frown, because you are no longer frowned upon, but when I'm watching my life in a movie, 32 scenes, regretting never coming into a single frame. But that's okay, Dad. I forgive you. The love you never gave has taught me to love deeper than a single sincere letter. Thank God heaven doesn't have a limit on leaving a voicemail, because I just went over this 30-second phone call. I'm sorry, I wish I could talk longer, but everything I'm telling you is all that has been going through my mind this past year. You've been gone. It's taken me 12 months to come out okay, though, through the 12 steps of healing. By the way, in case you didn't hear, Mom gives her condolence, hoping you found peace. Wait, before I go, Dad, you should know. When I see you in the mirror, I don't stare at myself. Instead, when I look at you, I stare at myself, cherishing every day that I'm alive. The mirage has perished in the ashes. Dad, I love you because I don't love you. I love you because you gave me a heart from a heartless chest. Even if it lacks your love and you broke it, I love you and I thank you. Rest in peace, Dad. To the father who walked beside me from a little boy into a gentleman, Father, please know I mean no disrespect. Please understand that blood is thicker than water. This concludes the story of the raw iron that branded this heart within my chest. The tombstone here, the marble soaked into a mold, the casket buried into my soul, a name that forever is a fable, a lost soul, a bastard, and father of David Wainwright Topher. Here the grave and grace of Robert Allen Wainwright. My father buried me, burnt me like a birthday wish, never to tell. I buried my father in a song, burning him in the flame, always to tell by a fireplace. The only presents my father ever gave to me was a pair of jeans. And on November 30th, 1990, a genius was born. Hello, my name is David Wainwright Topher.
Bro, I'm tearing up right now. I can't. I really can't right now. Oh, you know what it is when you have so much hurt and yet this from your own blood, and yet you're so willing to forgive them. You're so willing to want to love them, even though they've never been around. It's like, damn, man. Because when I was growing up, even though I had muted her mic. No, so even though I had a mother, I had a father, and even though, oh God, okay, I'm sorry, because I got distracted with yeah. I think that's just what it is. Like, that's how, yeah, the piece was so raw. This is what it's all come down to. It's, amazing stuff. Yeah, because even though I had alright, so even though I had parents, unfortunately, I felt like as if I didn't have parents because of the neglect of emotions there was. And I'm sorry if my phone keeps freezing on me. Sorry about that. So it's just one of those things like, I had so much hurt from my own family, especially my parents, that as I got older, I had to learn the hard way that when you hold on to so much and not talk about it or not write about it or whatever, it's one of those things that, you become something you don't want to become, if that makes sense. And I think the fact that you wrote what you wrote, it's like the part where it says, I hope I'm not talking to God indirectly. Like that really hit home for me, because even though I try my best to pray to Him or talk to God, but sometimes I'll talk to myself. I'm like, okay, is this my way of talking to God indirectly? I'm like, I hope God hears what I'm saying, even though I didn't say, hey, dear Jesus, or I didn't say, dear God, but I like to say, okay, I hope you hear what I'm saying, even though I'm not directed at you. I think indirectly, maybe you hear me kind of thing. So it's interesting. So maybe you can take that too, for sure. But I really, that piece really hit hard, man. Like it really
Yeah,
did.
it's funny because there's different pieces I piece together that make it all into one single piece. So the beginning piece, down to where I say, let's see, where am I getting at here? Where I say, so when after, let's see, yeah. So after I say 28 years of rain down my face, every storm bearing your name. That actually is no, it's not. It's not. Oh, sorry. So it's going to be after, yes, man who lost both a father and a son time. And then I go on to say ring ring before I could pick up the phone. I buried the raw initials in the poem. That ended the first piece, and once again, at that end, like I said, that end of and then the second piece came about, which I wrote a couple years ago. I wrote that a couple years before. Now I put that together. And then the whole raw aspect of it is that at the very end, give you what the initials raw mean, or what the initials of raw is. So raw is his name, Robert Allen Wainwright. So I constantly repeat that throughout the entire piece. So, um, and I even phrased it into another I would say, and I guess it is not really an algorithm, but to an anagram either. But when I say maturity has healed the law at laceration, the war has ended. So I flipped his initials around to say war, because the war between him and I personally, from my perspective, has ended. Like, wait, it died. I died with him. And then it took me about a year, and then I actually wrote the rest of it.
Wow.
And I mean, I've added
Wow.
a couple of things here and there, just from past ratings, but for the most part, I made sure that when I was rewriting the piece, I made sure that it stayed on track on the structure. So you don't realize it's all different pieces, but it's all one piece. But
Wow.
that's
That
yeah.
wow.
But yeah, and it's funny because ever since his passing, I've been seeing these numerical sequences every hour. Doesn't matter what hour it is; it's every hour that I see it, and
Right.
I believe it has some kind of association with him. It's like when I wrote this, he actually heard my words, and he's now. I would like to think that he's now at peace.
Yeah.
You know.
Like all that suffering that he probably went through. It because there's always a war within each other that we go through that only us men could really understand to the point like because me being a father now, me having me being me being married and everything like that, and my father's been passed away for 5 years, but as I grow as a parent, as a man, and me being just learning about myself through my son, it makes me wonder, wow, like if I'm feeling this within this war within myself, I could just imagine what my father probably probably felt like, and what war he probably went through within himself. The only thing is, unfortunately, I think I said it before in the past, where he came from a time where no one really spoke about these emotions. They weren't allowed to, and I grew up at a time where I was told to, oh, we don't talk about that stuff. But I feel like my generation and the generations preceding after that has broke that wall and broke that ceiling that now we can have that conversation. I think that's what makes it more profound, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of things us prideful men don't talk about. And it's like, I've come to that realization, well, if I don't talk about this, or I don't face this head on, then I'm never going to get this resolved within myself, right? Because I have to, like, you can't forgive someone if you're not willing to forgive yourself first.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because when I forgive myself, then I'll be able to love. Like you can't love someone if you don't love yourself first. It's hard. It's hard because, but I always believe that it's always possible to love someone, and I don't care about me, but I care about you, kind of thing. But that's not a good mindset to have, because that's very nice of you, but it's one of those, that's very dangerous, because if you do that to the wrong people, the wrong person, or the wrong things in life, those are going to be the same things that crush you down, so
And
it's interesting how life is,
Yeah, and like for so long, like when I say my ratings are my pseudonym and all, it's all from his. It really stems from I really created myself as a writer. I mean, I've tweaked it over the years, but initially when I started writing, that was my outlet. Like I had so much rage and anger just for the fact that I didn't know who my father was. Like I go by a single picture of him when I was 20, which I talked about
wow.
the piece, but I've never met him, never even talked to him or whatnot. I mean, I've reached out to him, of course, but again, he blocked me from Facebook. But my whole I guess my early on ratings, it all stemmed from a lot of anger, and I've written a lot of anger pieces that derived from him. But I felt that in this entire story, I went from anger, confusion, to realizing that he's passed away, and then throwing some hit and showing some expressive anger here and there. But in the end, the very last piece where I'm talking to him a year later, looking up to the heavens, and I've kind of made peace with it.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, man. No, and thank you for breaking that down the way you did. As we already reached towards the end, I guess my next thing is, do you have any final thoughts or any final words for pushing into the open mic with Origin of Thought?
The only thing I don't really have. I'm actually speechless like right now, and my apologies for actually somewhere at one of my words. Like I'm not very. I can be very vocal, but I'm vocal on paper rather than I am in verbal speaking. So that's why I stumble with my brain is wired to think 5 miles ahead.
Yeah, like I think, yeah.
Before my mind catches up to my mouth, or is able to catch up to my mouth. But I would say just be true to yourself. Don't be afraid to write what you say and write what you mean, because and it doesn't matter. Audience matters, but fuck audiences, because most of the time audiences they listen, but they don't actually they don't understand a writer when it's really, how can I put it in a better way. So when I say fuck audiences, like I mean the ones that are there just to listen, and they don't actually develop into like the piece. Like they're there to like because they're bored on a Friday night or not. You know, fuck those people, because they don't for one, they don't understand themselves, but secondly, the only ones that really truly know themselves are writers. I mean, even you can talking to another poet, you won't fully know that person as yourself. So that's the only thing I can say is, you know, fuck all the bullshit. Write how you want to write. Formulate it, structure it, and then share it to the world. It doesn't matter who likes it or doesn't like it. It doesn't matter, because I mean, no one really knows what that single piece means to you. And so,
and man, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for pretty much joining us in the season finale of season 5. As now we're gonna end this live. Angela, wait, just mute that quick. I think this is a good way to end this live, and we're gonna join Origin of Thought. So David, if you want to just join us at the Origin of Thought live open mic, we're all gonna be there. I'm gonna be there under Unraveled Influence. But like again, thank you so much for just thank you for just being you, man, and just share and be and trusting us with your words and trusting us to have that conversation with you. So thank you so much. And I think the way Fireworks is ending, I think this is perfect. We're celebrating 5 seasons of this podcast / platform. So thank you for being a part of it, man.
thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Yeah. Thank you. So guys, we're gonna go over to Origin of